ongoing for me.
Tonight, the provincial auditor offers a dire warning about how many more healthcare workers we need and the importance of holding on to those we have. And is inflation taking the sparkle out of the holidays? We check in with Saskatchewan families. Plus, hurry hard, Regina has slid its way into hosting another Brier.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Tuesday, December 7th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hello, and thank you for joining us. The provincial auditor says the Saskatchewan Health Authority needs to find more than 2,000 workers for hard-to-recruit positions over the next 5 years. The auditor released Volume 2 of her annual report this afternoon. She says the province is moving in the right direction on hiring healthcare workers, but it needs to do more soon. Adam Hunter has the details.
Provincial Auditor Tara Clement says the SHA needs to find more workers and keep the ones it has. She says the SHA will have an estimated 2,200 position shortages over the next 5 years in hard-to-recruit areas. Specifically, more than 800 continuing care assistants, more than 500 registered nurses, and nearly 200 medical laboratory technicians. She says the current government strategy of hiring new workers from here and abroad is positive, but it's not enough.
I think the focus can't just be about getting more new people into Saskatchewan. It's about retaining the current workforce that the authority has as well.
Clement says the SHA just started doing employee surveys. She calls the results not good. She says 66% of workers said they're burnt out. She's calling on the government and SHA to identify and communicate which areas of the province have staffing shortfalls.
So at the end of the day, they didn't have a good analysis to tell me which facilities in this province have the most almost significant gaps.
The report found that more than 700 full-time positions are needed in Prince Albert, Meadow Lake, and La Ronge over the next 5 years. Clement says the SHA should do exit interviews to find out why people are leaving and why they may not want to work in rural areas.
It's a little bit worrisome that it took them this long to have an overall formal health human resource plan. It is something that I would have envisioned you had sooner once you've basically centralized and become one overall provincial health authority.
The health minister just returned from a recruitment trip in the Philippines. He says that trip was successful, as are some of the other initiatives the government has undertaken this year.
Recruitment to the Philippines went extremely well. 129 offers made to individuals, and these are the individuals that are extremely excited about the opportunity to come to Saskatchewan. Their families are excited for them. But not only that, we're also growing from within Saskatchewan with our advanced education placements. We've also got recruitment from across Canada, the doctors we've recruited. Merriman says rural and northern Saskatchewan are the areas most in need of healthcare staff. He says the government's committed to filling positions in those areas, so there are no further service disruptions and no closures. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatchewan First Nations could soon have more power to sell cannabis and enforce rules around it in their communities. The provincial government introduced 2 amendment acts today. One would allow First Nations to enforce cannabis laws and bylaws through tickets, fines, and more. It also provides guidance on striking convictions and charging late fees for unpaid fines. The other proposed act provides a legal framework for regulation and retail operations.
This is actually something that we brought into regulations in the summertime of this past year of 2022. So now we're just taking those regulations and we're putting them into legislation. The biggest benefits that they'll have is they'll be able to access the product from the Canadian government. So they'll be able to ensure that the product they're getting is safe for their consumers.
The amendments will require all Saskatchewan cannabis retailers to only ask for ID if someone looks under the age of 25. Right now, proof of age is required from all buyers. It's the anniversary of a mass murder that rocked the entire country. 33 years ago today, more than a dozen women were killed at École Polytechnique in Montreal in an act of gender-based violence. 14 female engineering students lost their lives when they were gunned down by a man motivated by a hatred of feminists. 13 others were injured. Across the country, people are marking the anniversary in different ways. Here in Regina, a group from the WCA passed out red roses to get people thinking about the issue.
We mentioned the 14 names of the women and why we are giving you a rose to remember them. And then on the flip side, we do want to educate our community a little bit about the impacts of gender-based violence. So we share some statistics about gender-based violence and femicide in Canada, including the fact that in Saskatchewan, we have a rate of intimate partner violence twice the national average. So this is a serious issue right here in our community.
The roses can be scanned with a phone, directing people to an online donation page for a Regina women's shelter. There was also an anniversary event at the University of Regina today. Despite lowering flags at City Hall, the City of Regina was criticized for planning a festive Light the Lights holiday event tonight, on the same day people are mourning the mass murder. Saskatoon police are still on the hunt for two people they believe are connected to a recent homicide. The third person they were looking for, an 18-year-old man, has been found and charged with second-degree murder. Police released this photo last week after the fatal shooting of a 21-year-old man in Saskatoon. It happened on December 1st on 21st Street West and Avenue W South. The three people captured in the stairwell photo have been identified, but two of them are still on the run. Police are still looking for Regan and Cassie Punacha. Zenon Thomas has been caught. Anyone with information should call police or Crime Stoppers. Class action lawsuit against the now closed Saskatchewan School for the Deaf is now certified, more than a decade after it was launched. Jesse Anton has the details.
Back in 2009, more than 50 former students of R.J.D. Williams Provincial School for the Deaf signed on to a lawsuit. They say they experienced physical, sexual, and psychological abuse from staff and other students between 1955 and 1991. And last month, 12 years later, a Saskatchewan Court of King's Bench judge certified the class action.
Things are moving in the right direction, and there's an end in sight.
Tony Merchant is the lead counsel for the former students. While only 3 of them are represented on court documents, he estimates hundreds more may be affected and could come forward with similar allegations.
A school like that is really a difficult and dangerous place for students, and the people running it have to be alert to that, and they have to have protection. They didn't have any kind of protection.
Merchant says the compensation his complainants are seeking will be on an individual basis, and he hopes the defendant, the government of Saskatchewan, which ran the school, will come forward with a proposal.
It's important for them to have a recognition of the wrong, a recognition by the government that they failed this disadvantaged group, and they recognize that.
In an email to CBC News, the Ministry of Justice said the province has no further comment at this time, as the matter remains before the courts. And while the judge found enough criteria for the class action to be certified, court documents show they also asked for more materials to be filed, with a revised litigation plan expected to be presented to the government within 60 days. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
Regina's mayor and 8 city councillors plan to officially back the new city manager while condemning a lawsuit that implicates her. Last month, Councillor Dan LeBlanc filed a lawsuit on behalf of Councillor Andrew Stevens and local activist Florence Stratton. It alleges the city administration purposely subverted the will of councillors. The lawsuit was filed as an attempt to force city manager Nikki Anderson to include about $25 million in the proposed budget to end homelessness. The mayor's notice of motion condemning the lawsuit will be submitted during tomorrow's council meeting. It alleges the lawsuit could call council's operational integrity and oversight into question. It's no secret that nearly everything is costing more right now, and inflation is affecting how people in this province are planning for the holidays. The CBC's Laura Sharpaletti has the story.
Saskatchewan residents have been living with inflation for many months now. Between August 2021 and August 2022 in Saskatchewan, chicken drumsticks went up 33%, canned soup went up 68%, iceberg lettuce went up 25%, and pork shoulder cuts went up 30%. CBC News reached out to Saskatchewan Reddit users about affordability and received more than 170 comments. Many residents say they simply cannot afford all the bells and whistles for the holiday this year due to the rising cost of living.
We have a large family. We have 6 children. So food cost has like almost doubled sometimes, especially in a small town where they have to, bring food, shipping in, paying for more for food at the grocery store. So yeah, it's just Christmas, it definitely has affected our budget.
Bueller has family in Manitoba and is planning to visit them over the holidays. But she says it costs $100 to fill up the tank of her minivan due to high fuel costs. And with 2 tanks to Manitoba and back, that's a $400 round trip.
We're not going near the places that we used to go, even just driving to town, which is not that far for us. I try to still only go once a week.
The cost of living has also inspired some to step up and adopt a family. One Regina resident bought Christmas gifts for a mother and daughter living at Sophia House, a facility for families who have experienced domestic violence.
The reason I decided to do the adopt a family is I wanted to do something. I'm a first-time parent. I just realized, it's hard. So if I could maybe help them out in some way, then at least I could do something. Plus, I got to go shopping for Barbies, which was really fun.
Grocery bills are expected to rise even more next year, according to Canada's 2023 food price report. So for now, it seems many families will have to keep finding ways to stay frugal over the holidays and beyond. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatchewan reached a population milestone over the weekend. There are now more than 1.2 million people in the province. That means Saskatchewan accounts for around 3% of Canada's population. Saskatchewan grew by more than 13,000 people over the past year and 150,000 over the past 20. The province hopes to have 1.4 million people living in Saskatchewan by 2030. It's an exciting day for curling fans in Saskatchewan.
I could not be more excited to announce that the 2024 Brier, presented by AGI, will be played right here in Regina.
The National Men's Bonspiel was last held at the Brandt Centre just 4 years ago. The city and its partners have already made another successful pitch. The Regina Bid Committee says being able to hold the games and the party all in one building helped sweep out the competition.
Definitely something that we sell because it's so convenient for hosting and being able to have more of at least an inside festival atmosphere around the event. So the interconnectivity is a huge asset here in Regina.
The Brier is set to take over the Real District at the beginning of March 2024. Tickets and volunteer information for the championship is expected to be announced in the new year. It's beautiful and scenic in Saskatoon, overlooking the South Saskatchewan River, but don't let that fool you. It is also extremely cold, as you can tell from that steam coming off the water. So, when will this cold snap end? Our weather specialist Ethan Williams is back after the break with your full forecast. Stay with us. Last night, we introduced you to some of the province's most inspiring young people who are making a difference in their community. They are the recipients of CBC's Future 40 Awards this year. The winners include performers, community advocates, and entrepreneurs. We asked them, what advice would you give to yourself as a child? Here's what some of them said.
The advice I'd give my childhood self is to listen to my parents' advice, which was to always just stay true to yourself, to really believe in your own, to really believe in your heart and your passion, and to follow what you think is right. And you don't necessarily know where you're going to go, what you're going to end up doing, but as long as you feel good about what you're doing in the moment, then you're going to find that right place that you're supposed to end up at.
Just keep doing what you're doing, because mostly kids have a lot of fun, and then when we start growing up, you think, oh, you got to be all serious, or you have to save money or be career oriented. And just keep having fun and trust that the universe will take care of you, and most of the time it does.
I'm a bit of a late bloomer. when it comes to things, and that was always sort of a point for me, like a point of soreness for me, but now is the right time, and I am the right person, so wait for that right time. Don't be discouraged, continue doing what you're doing.
Keep blazing paths, stay confident, and stay comfortable in who I am, and keep going forward. Just trust myself and my gut.
To let it be easy and to touch lightly. To just enjoy the process and have fun with it, and things have a way of working out so much better than we can plan. And so yeah, if you can really lean into the process of becoming, it all unfolds the way that it's supposed to.
Keep doing what you're doing. I was a very anxious child, felt very unsure of what I was doing at any given time, and clearly something worked, so.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 22 model clear out is on now.
And you can find out more about those Future 40 recipients on our website. But now Ethan Williams joins us for the weather. I am hoping this intense cold isn't sticking around until spring.
Well, it looks like we are going to see a bit of a warm up, Natasha. That is the good news. But certainly the coldest weather of this cold snap is going to be happening as we go through the night tonight. Now, in fact, it's been so cold that we hit our daytime high this morning in much of the province. We usually hit that daytime high around the middle of the afternoon, around 4 o'clock. So here's a look at 4 o'clock temperatures today versus where we usually are at that time of day, this time of year. And we are much colder, 20 to 25 degrees below where we should be in much of south and central Saskatchewan. And because of that, we now have extreme cold warnings blanketing much of the province, save for the far southwest and far northwestern portions of the province. And here's why. We are looking at some very cold wind chills at the moment across the south and central, and these are only going to get colder as we go through the night. Coldest sections from North Battleford over to Prince Albert and down through the Parkland region of the province. In fact, tonight, some areas, especially in that area of the province, could get close to minus 50 with the wind chill in the overnight hours, but really all of us going to be seeing those extremely cold wind chills even into the mid-morning hours tomorrow before finally tapering off as we get through the afternoon. Now, this is all because of our polar vortex. Now, usually the polar vortex is up near the North Pole, but it has slid quite a bit further south. It's created kind of a temperature difference. You can see Saskatoon sitting at minus 33 today for your low temperature this afternoon. Alert Nunavut, which is the farthest north inhabited community in the country, in the world actually, should be sitting around minus 30 this time of year, but a little bit balmy there today, around minus 18. But that polar vortex is going to start to retreat. We're going to see some warmer weather move in as a ridge starts to build into the province, minus single-digit temperatures coming our way. And then by the weekend, we'll see another trough build in. Some cooler, more seasonal temperatures for this time of year starting to move in, but nothing like this last blast of cold that we have seen early this week. High pressure also to help reinforce the cold in place, save for that southwest part of the province, seeing some snow flurries this afternoon. That moves out through tomorrow. That's why we see that warm up as well. We'll see some snow in the Churchill region of the province. Really not anything too measurable in terms of accumulation. Another high pressure area moves through the northeast of the province Thursday, but that quickly moves out and shouldn't drop temperatures all that much. Now, through the night tonight in that southwest part of the province where you're seeing some snow, some gusts of wind could pick up. That could create a little bit of lowered visibility. Winds a little breezy tomorrow morning. That's why our wind chills staying very chilly through the mid-morning hours, but those should begin to die off as that wind moves out through the afternoon tomorrow. Now, I did promise a warm-up, and we indeed will see it here in our 7-day forecast. Regina, after a breezy morning tomorrow, will get to around minus 13, and then we'll get above normal as we head through the rest of the week. Some sunny conditions, and also seeing a little bit of cloud cover build in for the weekend, but temperatures staying quite nice. And Saskatoon, you will get to bask in that little bit of warmth as well. Mostly cloudy conditions on Friday, and we could see a little bit of snow flurries move through. But Natasha, overall, looks like our weather woes are going away just a little bit over this next little while.
Thanks for that, Ethan.
You're welcome.
The pandemic may have done away with Melville's Santa Claus parade, but a few residents are still committed to bringing Christmas cheer to their neighbors. This float gets more elaborately decorated every year. A second trailer had to be added to accommodate all of the trinkets. It travels around the city a few times in December. The local OK Tire, which donated the truck and trailers, posts the One Truck Parade schedule on Facebook in case you want to check it out in person. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. An audit of the federal government's pandemic spending concludes the rollout of vaccines and financial benefits was swift but wasteful. The Auditor General has released 2 reports on Ottawa's response. CBC's Marina von Stackelberg has the details.
Canada did not have.
The Auditor General says the federal government's COVID-19 benefit programs rolled out fast, and without them, Canada's poverty rate would have doubled.
We found overall that they were quite effective in meeting the government's objectives of first getting support out to individuals and employers quickly, minimizing the increase in poverty or income inequalities, and also helping the economy bounce back from the pandemic.
But the audit found Ottawa gave out billions of dollars in CERB payments it shouldn't have. She's identified $4.6 billion in overpayments. Only half of that money has been repaid so far. And she's flagged an extra $27.4 billion in pandemic relief that needs to be investigated. Half of that money could have gone to businesses that didn't qualify. She says in its rush to hand out checks quickly, the government limited its checks on applicants.
And that's why the hard work is now needed when you minimize prepayment to do rigorous post-payment work to identify who is really ineligible.
But she says the government's efforts to find and recoup that money are not thorough or fast enough.
What is their plan on how they intend to deal with it, and how much are taxpayers going to be on the hook for the administrative costs to pursue these individuals?
A lot of Canadians have paid back these overpayments. A lot have negotiated repayment agreements. So we are trying to balance risk and fairness.
The Auditor General also found that Canada wasted millions of COVID-19 vaccine doses. As of this spring, 50 million surplus doses were earmarked for donation to other countries, but less than 1/3 were given away, and nearly 14 million expired before they could be.
The goal was to ensure that every Canadian who wanted to be vaccinated could have access to vaccines, and that was achieved.
Since Canada didn't have its own factories to make COVID-19 vaccines, the Auditor General says it was smart of the government to enter into agreements with several companies to purchase them before the shots were even manufactured. But doing that meant some doses would be wasted. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Ethan is back with another look at our forecast.
And a frosty morning is where we will start in Regina, Natasha. -28 under mostly sunny skies in Regina. That wind making that wind chill feel closer to the -40 mark. We will start to warm up as we hit the noon hour. We'll be over the -20 mark. A wind chill still going to be close to -30. And then as we head toward the afternoon, warming up to around -13. Saskatoon starting quite cold as well. And then by the noon hour, we are going to get some clearing conditions as well. Wind chill still around that -13 mark, but we'll be warming up around -13 or 14 or so as well. Now, there is some beauty in all this cold, as Bonnie caught up near Buffalo Narrows. That's a sundog, of course. Probably will not be seeing more of those in the next few days, Natasha, and that'll be some welcome relief.
Thanks for that, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Well, that's it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.